What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so are you proud to be an American? That's the question we posed today. There was a new poll come out asking Americans. It was a Gallup poll, as a matter of fact, asking Americans, are you proud to be an American? And it's surprisingly at an all-time, or not so surprisingly, at an all-time low. I think it was 58% of Americans are proud to be an Americans. And not shockingly at all, Republicans, I think it was almost 90%. We'll get into it in the news article here. Almost 90% of Republicans are extremely or very proud to be an American, which is great. But we've got MSNBC coming in, and yeah, they're not so proud, if you will. Let's get into this. I'm proud of America and ashamed of what's happening to it. So you see how they twisted that around? I'm proud of America. They're not proud to be American. Those are vastly different statements right there. Right? So let's get into this, y'all. A new Gallup poll show just 58% of Americans say they're extremely proud or very proud to be Americans, the lowest level recorded since Gallup first asked this question in January 2001, when 87% self-described as extremely or very proud. That number would bump up to over 90% after the 9/11 terrorist attack 8 months later, and stay roughly at that level until 2004, when tragically folly and national shame of the Iraq War became too evident for even the most patriotic Americans to ignore. Now, see, this is something I don't get, right? Why did that number drop? Because being proud of your country does not reflect necessarily what that country does, follies of that country, mistakes that country makes, right? We've made many, many mistakes. But does that mean that we just wash away the good things that this nation has done? Does that mean we wash away our patriotism, for goodness sakes, just because the country makes a mistake, lies to its own people, right? The country isn't the government. The country is everything. The government's part of it, sure, but the country is the government, the people, the culture, the land, everything. That is the country. That's what it means to be patriotic. You love your neighbors. You love your government, right? Anything, the whole thing, right? So you can be ashamed of one aspect and still be very patriotic toward your family, toward, where you live, the people around you, the nation itself as a whole, right? I don't understand this. So, why would the Iraq War, which was egregious in my opinion and should have never been fought, we were lied to, you go after the individual that lied, that got us into that war, right? That's part of our history, sure, but why would that affect your patriotism, for goodness sakes? It shouldn't. People conflate those things all the time. But let's keep going. The my country, right or wrong brand of patriotism never made sense to me. Now, we're going to get into some shit right here. Yeah, that's how you say it backwards, by the way. To be sure, a stable majority of Americans still says they're super proud to be Americans, and Republicans currently poll at 92% as extremely or very proud, having never dropped below 84% in 2022 during the 24 years of polling available. But just 36% of Democrats and 53% of independents are at least very proud, a sharp drop from 87% and 84% respectively in early 2001. I rarely ask myself questions like, how proud are you to be an American? But in the spirit of America's birthday weekend, I'll give it the old frontier try. Yeah, right. It's coming from somebody from MSNBC. These people hate America, y'all. They do. And we'll get into the hate here in a little bit, It's so fascinating to me, that a lot of hate and intolerance comes from the party of love, the party of tolerance. That's fascinating, right? That's how you know it's a cult, folks. It's because they're only tolerant if you believe the exact same things that they believe, right? They can't say the same thing about Republicans. They just can't. You might get all giddy and say, oh, no, Republicans are hateful. They're bigots. They're racist. Not really. Not against people. Sure, people might do some bad things and we might say that that's evil. But we also recognize that people can be forgiven. people can come around. People can change their minds. Certain people. But the left, they are the purveyors of cancel culture. That's the whole idea around cancel culture. Exiled from society, you are. Whenever you step out of line with the cult, you're exiled from society. That's how Democrats run themselves, for goodness sakes. They are the creators of cancel culture. I mean, what Republicans... Sure, Republicans have got on board with some of it sometimes, but, we also believe in forgiveness. We also believe in repentance and coming back from your mistakes, for goodness sakes. All right, sure, you should be shamed, but that doesn't mean you should be exiled, for goodness sakes. People make mistakes. You point out those mistakes, which is what we're trying to do. We're not intolerant. We're just saying, look, you made a mistake. You're making a mistake. You need to change course. Not, you need to go away and be exiled. You need to be banned from social media and all this nonsense. Right? We take the good with the bad. And we try to course correct. That's at least my philosophy and the philosophy of the people around me and the people that I can see. Like, sure, there's outliers. But, for the most part, coming from the Democratic Party, these people exile people, for goodness sakes. People leave the party because the party told them that they were no longer welcome. And they felt like they had nowhere to go. So they turned to the Republican Party, and the Republican Party welcomes them with open arms. Just look at Donald Trump. Look at the MAGA movement itself. The MAGA movement has an arm called left-wing MAGA. The MAGA left. Yeah. That exists, folks. And it exists for a good reason, because Democrats and the left have exiled people that fall out of lockstep, that start to question the teachings of the cult, if you will. Let's get into this, y'all. First off, the my country, right or wrong brand of patriotism never made sense to me. Why couldn't I be ashamed of some of America's immutable sins, centuries of chattel slavery, and the ethnic cleansing of Native Americans come to mind, while also feeling a sense of pride in the country's ability to consistently evolve for the better? Right? There is no problem with that. As a matter of fact, we totally agree on all of those things. Right? Sure. The ethnic cleansing of Native Americans was bad. But, it's a lot deeper than just ethnic cleansing, isn't it? See, when you frame it that way, it's not just, white people, European settlers, bad, and Native Americans, not so much. Because, the Native Americans were ethnically cleaning themselves as well. So it's not like we came in and just started going after these people. No, that's far from the truth, as a matter of fact. Sure, did they feel like we were encroaching upon their lands? Define their lands right quick, because it's my understanding that they didn't really believe in property rights. Sure, their land. But they didn't really believe in the right to own said land, so call it whatever you want. Now, that's just clashing of cultures right there. But how did we fix that? That's the thing you got to look at. Like he said, proud of solutions. Sure. Did we fix that? Is it good enough? Some people would say no. I would say yes. I would absolutely say yes. It's definitely good enough. They have their own enclaves, for crying out loud, where they can rule themselves pretty much how they want to. Right? Federal law does exist, but it's not really enforced. It's only enforced selectively, which is not good. I don't think that's a good thing. But what other place can a conquered people say that they get their own enclaves and they get to rule themselves however the hell they want to? Palestine. Right. I'm sorry, you can make all the arguments you want to, but it's Palestine. They've offered them statehood several times, which I didn't know this. I didn't know how many times exactly they've been offered statehood, going back almost 100 years, all the way to 1937. And they've rejected it time and time and time and time again due to one aspect. I know we're not trying to get into Israel, Gaza, but That one aspect is the existence of an Israeli state. Yeah. So, slavery, egregious. We fought the bloodiest war in American history. Or Civil War, whatever you want to call it, right? We fought it, and we won. Hey, it is what it is. We fought to end that egregiousness, if you will. That's a good thing. That's a very good thing. Sure, was slavery bad? Yes. But slavery was also the norm at the time when this country existed. And these people, the Democrats, as a matter of fact, which, by the way, consequentially and ironically enough, they still want their slaves, for goodness sakes. It's just a modern version of slavery, right? It's called second class or a serf class, where they want these people to come in from other countries. They want them to come in illegally and work in this country. Or they want the people that are already here illegally to stay and work. They want them to get amnesty, for goodness sakes, for breaking the law. Yeah, they want to be rewarded for breaking the law, for goodness sakes. So it's fascinating. It really, really is. Which I don't get myself. But that's what Democrats are still advocating for, which is tantamount to slavery, right? It's not the exact same because, sure, they get paid. But they don't get paid time off. They don't get none of the benefits that an American citizen would get. They don't get Social Security or Medicare, Medicaid. They try to give them these things. But they can't give it to them legally. They don't get paid time off. They don't get the paid vacation, the benefits that you or I get. That's what Democrats are advocating for. All under the guise of, they just wanted to come here for a better life. Why are you messing with these people? They just go to work and go home and that's it. Is that the case? Is that really the case? Why did they break the law and enter this country and work and stay here illegally for so long with no attempts to legalize their residence within the United States for over, 10, 20, 30, 40 years? A lot of these people, they just want to stay illegal, if you will. No repercussions. Well, that's wrong. Once again, we don't live in a free nation unless our laws are applied equally. And that's what Donald Trump is trying to do. And this guy frames everything out quite differently, if you will, but we'll get to that. Why can't I be both mortified at the bloody history-changing stupidity that was George W. Bush's Iraq War and proud that both of my grandfathers fought the Nazis in World War II? You can be, my dude, and still be 100% patriotic. You most certainly can be. But in these people's brains, they can't for some reason. And I don't understand that. But I still can't really get a sense of where I fall on the patriotism spectrum based strictly on historical events. When I think of what makes me uniquely proud to be an American, it's things like the generally accepted reverence for the Constitution. We don't do kings. Our government has checks and balances. Bad actors can be removed from office. I'm proud of American tradition of freedom of speech that to this day is considered radical even in much of the free world. Our First Amendment protects the right to express so-called offensive speech, be it worthless, rancid hate speech or politically unpopular agitation for civil rights. The freedom to express both poles of thought and everything in between is what makes the First Amendment so radical and so just. I totally agree with all of that. However, we'll see that he doesn't really feel that way. It also protects the right to freedom of the press, which has been buttressed by Supreme Court rulings that make it very plain that the onus to prove defamation is on the complainant, not the journalist or publisher. That's how we report on the government and the rich and powerful without being automatically destroyed by said forces. And I'm proud of how America, though it is often painfully slow to progress, regularly makes massive leaps in tolerance and expanding human rights. But it's slow to progress? What are you talking about that makes these massive leaps? Massive leaps in tolerance and human rights. That's great. Aren't you proud of these things? Right? Once again, you can have the utmost patriotism in your country for doing things like this and still accept the wrong that we have done. Because, once again, folks, you got to look at it in totality. When we have done something egregious in this country, and we resolve that. We always resolve our egregiousness. Shouldn't that be celebrated, y'all? Y'all let me know down in the comments section. Should not that be celebrated? I think it should. I think you take the bad and you figure out that, hang on, all the bad things historically has been followed up with very, very good things. A course correction, if you will. Always. We always follow up with a course correction. That should be celebrated. That should be where your patriotism flows from, if you will. Because there's always a course correction. We always resolve these issues. And we always do it in the best possible way. That's what makes us so great. It's not our diversity that makes us so great. It's our ability to point out problems, see these problems, and come up with a solution and implement that solution perfectly. That's all I'm saying. But in July 2025, all these things that make me proud of America are under threat. Worse, they are under threat from Americans. No, they're not. They're just under threat from your possessed mind, if you will. President Donald Trump, an unrepentant racist, has helped renormalize rank bigotry. To cite one of the immutable examples, his close confidant Laura Loomer commented this week on X that the so-called Alligator Alcatraz migrant detention center in the Florida Everglades could provide at least 65 million meals to the alligators. That figure roughly corresponds to the Latino population of the U.S. See, and that's where these people go, to just weird insanity. They can't take a joke, right? He talks about freedom of speech and, freedom of expression and all this. But yet, when somebody expresses themselves in such a way that he thinks is bigoted or racist, all of a sudden, oh, our freedom of speech is under threat. That's insane, if you ask me. That's clearly a joke, right? But it's funny because that number also corresponds with the amount of illegals that are in this country. But he didn't mention that, did he? Fascinating. And at an event Thursday meant to kick off a year's worth of festivities commemorating America's semi-quincentennial, ooh, that was hard to say, the president used an ancient anti-Semitic slur when referring to unscrupulous bankers. At the same event, he said of congressional Democrats who didn't vote for this mega bill, I hate them too. You know that? I really do. I hate them. I cannot stand them because I really believe they hate our country. Right? So when it's clear, though, that these people do hate the country, and this guy is pretty much explaining that so does he. Because the vast majority of Americans agree that, look, we need to get all the illegal people out of here. All the criminal aliens, they need to go. All this far-left, ideologically driven nonsense is ripping the country apart. The press is ripping the country apart by lying to the American people, propagandizing the American people to hate Americans. That's what MSNBC is doing. That's exactly what they're doing right here. He is explaining to you why it's okay to hate America because Donald Trump is in charge. It's fascinating. I can't say the renaissance of shameless expression of hate and racism makes me proud to be an American. But hang on, that is one of the core facets of our country. It's freedom of speech, freedom of expression, even freedom of expression that you don't like. See what I mean? These people, he's making the excuse as to why he dislikes this country. Right? He was just a minute ago touting the fact that we have these really extreme facets of our nation that make us an outlier, that make us the greatest nation in the world, worthy of praise. Same exact thing. In July 2025, all those things that make me proud of America are under threat. Worse, they're under threat from Americans. Did you just say that, my guy? The same goes for the Trump administration and MAGA movement's war on the press, including the blackmailing of corporate parent companies to settle bogus lawsuits with blatant shakedown money, threats to imprison reporters for reporting on government documents, and brain poisoning of their followers into believing that things like asking for comment are harassment. I don't know exactly what the hell he's talking about here, but because what do you mean bogus lawsuits? Explain all of this, my guy, because what does MAGA stand for, as a matter of fact? Making America great again. I mean, if you're complaining about Donald Trump suing CBS for trying to blatantly lie to the American people by taking an interview and manipulating that interview to make the presidential candidate seem coherent. Yeah, I think that's wrong. I think you give to the American people reality. And that's it. You don't give them a filtered version of reality, an altered version of reality to make that reality seem more coherent. I think that's wrong. I think if this candidate is so incoherent that it sounds like rambling nonsense, then that's what you air. That's what you give to the American people. But instead, CBS, they tried to manipulate that interview. They tried to selectively edit that interview to make it more coherent, to boost Kamala Harris's chances of winning. That is not what our media is supposed to be about, not the mainstream news. When they claim to be unbiased, that's what they claim. See, that's why I can get away with what I get away with. I'm very biased, and I'll tell you that outright. I'll give you the truth. But I'll also give you my bias. I'll give you my opinion. I have no problem saying that. But CBS, ABC, CBS, CNN, all of these places, I know I said CBS twice, sorry. They lie to you and tell you that they're unbiased, it's fair, it's balanced. Is it? It's fascinating, you know, this guy goes through it and explains why there's reasons why he's not so proud of America. But shouldn't the solutions to those be the reason that you are proud of America? Shouldn't that be what makes us so great? What makes us the best country in the world is that we recognize a problem, come up with a solution, and then actually implement that solution. Whether it takes a while, you know, whatever that may be. I mean, we've ended racism, or we tried to end racism for the most part. We ended racism institutionally in this country through legislation. Yes, we did that. Fascinating, that is. But I've been rambling for a long time, so y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. Blows my mind, y'all, some of these people and how much they hate America, and how much you can tell even when they're trying to tell you that they love America. You can tell how much they hate America, but it is what it is. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you like what you heard. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Sign up. Become a member. I would really, really appreciate y'all if y'all could do that for me. But y'all try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.